It's time for the Northwoods Cooking Show. Starring Uncle Roy and Miss Callie, the troublemaking dog.
Hello and welcome to the Northwoods Cooking Show. I'm your host, Uncle Roy, and this is my lovely assistant, Miss Callie Ellis. Oh, come here, Callie. Come here, treat. Oh, look at her. She won't even come for a treat. Look at her. She's napping right there, next to a toy. Oh, she all tuckered out. Anyway, happy Octoberfest. This is our special edition, our second one of the first one we did last year. And we made Jaeger Schnitzel, hot German potato salad, and what was the other one, Callie? Sweet and sour cabbage. Well, today we're going to do some different ones. And we're going to be making sausages and cabbage and a dark pumpernickel rye. And this bread can go right into your bread machine. So it's going to be very simple to do. And while this is baking and mixing up in the machine, we can take and go on to other recipes. What we're going to do is put our ingredients into the bread machine container. And we're going to put this on the dough cycle. So when it's done, all we have to do is shape it into a loaf, let it rise again, and then we can just bake it into the oven. So in our container here, we need 1 1/4 cups of warm water. And I'm doing something slightly different. Instead of water, I'm using beer. Because we're going to take and do a beer bread. So you don't want to have cold beer, you want to have warm beer just like you would warm water because it's a yeast bread. So you want it to be somewhat warm, and like testing for a baby bottle, you don't want it hot, but you do want it warm. Now I had my beer at room temperature and I'm just heating it up just for a little bit here. We don't want it hot, but yet we want it hot enough to activate the yeast. So that's 1 1/4 cups of warm water or warm beer. And we want to put these things in order so that they get mixed properly in the machine. So then we also need 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. I broke down and got myself a new set of measuring spoons, so I got a half one now. But we just need 1 tablespoon of oil. And 1 1/2 tablespoons of dark molasses. This gives it a nice rich flavor. And then we need 1 cup of rye flour. Okay, it's 1 cup of rye, and then we need a 1/2 cup of whole wheat flour and a 1/4 cup of the bread flour. Now these are all different kinds of flour, so make sure you have these different kinds. You can't substitute, you have to have these kinds. But the bread flour is a finer grain texture, so you want to use that in there for flavoring and texture, but you also need the all-purpose to give it a coarser texture too. So they work together when they're combined. And then we need 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Because remember now, that kosher salt, it's true, it's less sodium than iodized salt, but salt also is a leavening agent in all your baking goods. So you have to make sure you have your salt in there. And then we need 3 tablespoons of powdered milk. Callie ran downstairs. She knows this machine. She don't like the machine. It scares her. And 2 teaspoons of instant coffee. Now the coffee is rich in flavor, plus it also gives it a great color too. It's 2 teaspoons of instant coffee. And then 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa. And I've got the Hershey's cocoa, but I got the 100% cacao. So this is gonna give it a nice, rich, chocolatey taste. And it'll make it nice and dark. And I just scrape that off on the inside of the container so we get a level tablespoon. And then we need 1 tablespoon of caraway rye seed. Now, if you see it in the grocery stores, at the end of the spice aisles, they usually have a display of all these little spices in little plastic bags that Mexican spices have, you know. Look through those. This caraway rye seed is like $5 for this little bottle, but I got a whole little bag, which is like about 8 ounces, like about 4 or 5 times as much as this, only $1.69. Pays to shop around. And on top of this, now we need 1.5 teaspoons of yeast. And I like to use the quick rise yeast to help everything rise quicker, so you don't have to be here all day long with the other with the normal yeast. That takes forever to rise. And that's it. Now we just tap this down and we just put this in the machine. And now I just have this on the dough cycle, and we start that up and we let it go. After the cycle's all done, then we'll take the dough out and we'll freeform it into a round loaf onto a baking sheet with parchment paper. And then we can bake that in the oven at 350 degrees. And then we'll be right back. It's all done. So now we just have to shape it into a loaf. Ooh, rise it nice. Look at that. Ooh, how dark. Wow. And let's see, just gonna clean up a little section here. Oh, let's see, Callie, I need your help. We're gonna put just a little bit of flour on the cupboard here just to keep it from sticking. Ooh, gooey bread. Very chocolate bread. Yeah. So now we'll just shape this into a round loaf. Kind of go around. There's different ways of doing this, whatever makes more comfortable for you. You want to try to get rid of that seam on the bottom. Oh, that smells so good. And we'll put this on a piece of parchment. Onto our cookie sheet. And I got the cookie sheet because it has no sides to it. Because if you put the sides on, remember how that takes and contracts heat. And that'll burn the bottom of the bread much quicker or easier. So now we put that on top of that, and then don't forget, where's my razor blade? I got a really, really sharp razor blade. You want to make a slit across on the top, about 1/4 inch deep and about 2 inches long, going from top to bottom and side to side. That's going to crack, so that as the bread rises, if you didn't put that in there, when the bread rises, it's going to shoot out to the sides and stuff and get all deformed. Hopefully this will keep it from doing that and it'll rise up in the center. I did that once with those bread bowls. I don't know if you remember seeing that one, how gorgeous and perfect they were when they came out. Oh, those are beautiful. Hopefully this will be the same way. So now we'll just keep this towards the back of the oven where it's nice and warm. And we let this rise until it's double, which would be about 45 minutes to an hour. And then we'll get back and we'll bake the bread. We're going to take and put a light towel over the top of that and let it rise until it's double, about 45 minutes to an hour. And then we put that into a 350-degree oven for 45 minutes or until you can roll it over and knock on the bottom and it sounds hollow, and then it's done. And when you take it out, always remember when it's hot bread to immediately brush with butter, and that'll keep it a nice soft crust. We're going to be making our dessert, which is going to be a Black Forest cake. How German and chocolatey is that? Yummy. So of course we're going to have the dry ingredients separate from the white. And in a separate bowl then for our dry ingredients, we're going to be needing 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. 2. Then we're going to be needing 3/4 cup of cocoa. And we use the same cocoa that we did in the pumpernickel rye bread. So we get a nice dark cake. Ooh, Callie, this is good. Just took off running again. I don't have the machine on, Callie. This is the cake, not the bread. Just don't like that sound. And 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And again too, I've said this before, if you don't bake that much, your soda and your baking powder may be a little inactive at the top. So you want to take and stir it up so you can get some of the more active ingredients from the bottom. I don't have that problem because I do a lot of baking, but it does help out a lot. And a 3/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Oh, there goes the bread. That's okay. And then 2 cups of sugar. I didn't see that underneath. Oh, Callie took off. She didn't take off then, she'd take off now if it does beat. She just don't like that noise. And there's the 2 cups of sugar. Now I always take a wire whisk to do my mixing of my dry ingredients. That always helps out a lot. And it gets the dry ingredients mixed up so much finer and nicer when you use the wire whisk. It really incorporates them together a lot. It makes it really nice. So you don't have big clumps of soda or chocolate in one spot or another. This will make it all even. It blends everything together really nice. Plus the hardness of the wire is going to break up any lumps that you might have in there of flour or sugar or soda or anything like that, so that it's all fine and mixes well together when you add your liquids. Okay, we'll set this aside here. And then in the mixer now for my wet ingredients, I'm going to be needing a 1/2 cup of shortening. Now I'm going to be using the Crisco flavored shortening, or the Crisco flavor, the butter flavored Crisco. Because that's going to give me a nice buttery flavor to my cake, rather than just a greasy tasting like just plain vegetable shortening. It does add a really nice flavor to your baking when you use the butter flavored Crisco. So mix this up, break it up. And to this we're going to be adding 3 eggs. Ooh. Let those incorporate a little bit better. And a tablespoon of vanilla. And because it's a special occasion, I'm using my pure vanilla, the expensive stuff. This is the stuff I don't buy for myself. This is the stuff that I got off a gift card that I got for Christmas. $20 a bottle. Ooh. I would not pay that much for vanilla. $5 a bottle is expensive enough for pure vanilla. $20? Oh my Lord. But this is that bourbon vanilla. Madagascar bourbon. Ooh, expensive stuff. Williams Sonoma, very expensive. I think Kitchen Window might have it too. And then we need 1 cup of milk. And I turn that speed down because you don't want it splashing up all over the place. And then I'm going to scrape the bowl with the excess butter. And then I'm going to mix in about 1/3 of the dry ingredients. Because I want that to cling to that butter. To kind of separate the milk and butter. So I want to put this on low just to incorporate that milk mixture and butter in with the dry ingredients. And then we can put in the rest of the flour mixture. And then I'll use my wooden spoon and mix this up by hand. Because like I said before in my baking, in most of your recipes, if you use the mixer after you add your flour ingredients, it activates the gluten and then you get a drier, harder cake. So this way, it's just not going to get as hard or as rubbery. And you got control over the mixture. And we just want to mix this up until it's all well moistened. Because you don't want to over mix, just make sure all those dry ingredients are well blended. Get on the bottom. Because with this mixer, it doesn't always get the bottom, so the spoon is even nicer. Making sure that you get the bottom. And when they're all mixed up, that's it. You can stop, because you don't want to over-mix. Ooh, Callie Ellies. Chocolate-ockities, Callie's. Keep coming up. See hear that beat. Then we're going to pour this into our prepared pans. I always like this Baker's Joy, because it gets the flour and oil shortening all mixed together. And be careful when you spray so you don't get it all over your cupboards. That's always a mess. I always like to aim it towards the sink. And then we'll just divide this batter in half and pour half in each pan. And then smooth it out. Get that all evenly spread. Because we're going to cut these layers in half horizontally, so we're going to end up with 4 layers. So you want to try and get it this as evenly as possible, the same amount. You know, of course you're never going to, but I mean, that's just the objective here, is to try and get it as even as possible. This is going to make it easier to fashion the cake together once if everything's all the same size. And if it's not, don't cry, it ain't going to hurt you. It'll just be a learning experience. Oh, is that ever chocolatey? Oh. Remember, I'm diabetic, I can't be eating that. Making samples. Just samples. Just samples. Okay, now this goes into a 350-degree oven. Tap it down. That gets out any air bubbles and it makes it even then too. This goes into 350-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Then we're going to take the cakes and we'll put those on a cooling rack and let those cool for 10 minutes before we invert them. We need to let them set before you turn them over, otherwise they break apart. After 10 minutes, you can invert them and let them cool completely on your cake rack. And then we can, when they cool completely, then we'll get back to the cake and we'll cut it and start to assemble it. And now we're going to take and construct our Black Forest cake. So first we need to have 3 cups of whipping cream, the liquid. And this goes right into a bowl and we're going to whip this up. Now you just want to whip it until it's frothy. And then we're going to add 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. So as soon as this gets frothy, we'll take and add the powdered sugar. Now be careful that you don't overbeat it because then you're going to get butter. This is the real whipping cream. So we'll be right back when it's all frothy. So now we need 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. Plus 2 tablespoons. Which actually is 1/8 of a cup. So it's 1/4 cup plus 1/8 cup. Samples. Oh, she's looking. Oh. And I had these cooling on the rack. And now we got to cut these in half horizontally. And the first layer goes down. Oh, look at her. Here's me cutting. Everything right on the cutting board has to be right there. Oh, oh. Samples. That's what you're looking for, aren't you? Oh, yeah, you know something's going on. And what we do is we put on about 1 cup of whipping cream. And we spread this all over the first layer. And then we're going to top it off with some cherry pie filling. We don't need a lot. About 3/4 of a cup. And just spread that all over the top of that first layer. Go out to the edges. And we put on the second layer. Oh, she's just waiting for the crumbs. And then repeat. And we don't have to worry about it going over the edges at all. That's going to get smoothed out around the edges anyway. Another 3/4 cup on top of that. Now if you want to, you could add a little kirsch, which is a little cherry brandy, to the cherry filling. Mix that together and then spread that over. And that'll give it a nice flavor. And then we just repeat this with the other layer. Oh, she's looking for crumbs. Look at her. Getting the cake crumbs. So that's the 3 layers with the cherry filling in between on top of the whipped cream. Now we take the 4th layer and we put this into our food processor. Because this we're going to take and grind up so we can get cake crumbs. And now we'll take these cake crumbs and these are going to be patted all the way around the outside of the cake. Oh, look at all these crumbs, Callie, Alex. Oh, crumbs. You want to be careful. Try not to get on top. If you do, it's no biggie, because we're going to take and put the rest of the pie filling on top. And then I'll continue around until we get the whole outside covered with the cake crumbs. And you will have leftovers too. Then I just take some more of the crumbs and I put them on top here so we can cover the whole thing. And it's okay if you don't get the edges, because now I'll take the rest of the whipping cream that's in the container, add about a 1/4 cup of butter, and like about another 2 cups, about 1.5 cups of powdered sugar until you get a thick frosting. And then I'm just putting it in a piping bag with a star-shaped tip on it. And we're just going to go around and squeeze stars all the way around the border. And then we just pipe all the way around the edge like that. And then you just take the last of your pie filling. And we just put this right in the center. And then we just spread this around the whole entire top. And that's our Black Forest cake. Oh, Callie, don't that look good? Mmm.